Now, it is very important to remember that during the development of syntax stage, the child coinage or the child develop the forming of the questions and the negative formation at the same time. So it means these two linguistic structure formations occur at the same time within 3 stages. As we stated, or as the book stated previously, with the development of the question formation, it's also important to have a look and a quick, not a quick look actually, to have a look at the formation of the negatives this time. Now, also with the formation of a question falls in the same 3 stages that we previously talked about. Now, in stage 1, or stage 1 seems stage 1 what? From 18 to 26. Involve a simple strategy of putting no or not at the beginning. No and not. Okay, so this is, again, these 2 usages or uses of no and not occur in the first stage from 18 to 26 months. They may express denial or desire. For example, you aren't doing it, you see here, the use of the not, and I do not, again, want you to do it. So this example to express a denial for something or a desire for something. Now, this, as you see here, very simple example. No, sit there. So this is, of course, a child about 5, maybe 6 years old. May use in the first stage, in the first place, the no and not in the preceding or to precede the sentence or the utterance. No, sit there. The child is trying to say, do not sit there. But that child is incapable of using the do and not here in this right place. So this is for what? For the first stage. For the second stage, there is an additional usage to the formation, or sorry, to the negative here. And this occurs between 22 to 30 months. Okay? In the second stage, the additional negative forms like don't and can't appear with no and not together are increasingly used in front of the verb rather than at the beginning of the utterance. Let's see. He no bite you. He no bite you. Of course. Now, this is maybe one of the versions that a child may use. I don't want it. You see here the appearance of don't here in the correct place. Now, again, the child synchronizes the use of not. So sometimes the child may use no or not in his or in her speech. Some other times may tend to use don't and can't in the right place. Now, what's going on here in the third stage? Let's see, please. Wait a second. Now, again, this additional and very important stage in the development of syntax occurs between 24 to 40 months, which is a resemblance of the third stage. Now, sees the incorporation of other auxiliary forms. We have what? Didn't and won't. While typical stage number 1 form disappear. Of course, when that child progresses and develops his or her language, the odd stage, let's say the incorrect stage of using the incorrect usage of some auxiliaries disappear when that child is going to be able to recognize a correct form or a correct usage of auxiliaries. Now, the third stage is the incorporation of other auxiliaries like the didn't and won't. Now, of course, the first stage and maybe the second stage disappear here because the child is not all children. By the way, most children are going to be able to use a better and a more developed stage in the usage of the question of the negative. I didn't catch it. He note taking it. You see here these examples are again another witness to the development of the child. I didn't quote it, you see, but the child still isn't able to recognize between the quote and the correct place, which shouldn't be used after the verb to do. But what is important to note is the use of didn't. Now this stage is very important, which witnesses. Why witnesses? Why important? Because it witnesses additional usage of the auxiliaries in the negation of sentences. She won't. Again, here there is another implementation of the usage of the will not or won't. The study of the developing use sorry, use of negative forms has produced some delightful examples of children operating their own rules for negative sentences. One famous example from Mike Niall, 1966, as you see here. Now you can have time to read these examples to recognize the use of don't, use of no, and maybe some exclamation marks after the O, and you can recognize also how the mother is trying to help her child to speak a better and a more recognizable English. To further detail the development of semantics, it is again important to remember things we said or we talked about earlier in the previous video, I guess. It is the holophrastic stage. Now, during the holophrastic stage, the child uses a very limited vocabulary to refer to a larger number of unrelated objects. Now, one child may use bow, woe, you see, to refer to different things. To refer to a child, to a dog, maybe to refer to a fur piece of glass eyes, cufflinks, and even bath thermometers. So now bow wow is used here to mean different things for that child, which seems that any object with shiny bits is interpreted in the lexicon of that child as bow wow. Now, this is very important to know about what is meant by the overextension here. Overextension. The most common pattern is for the child to overextend. This is another version of overgeneralization. But of course, it is different from overgeneralization. Now, this is about an overextension or overextend the meaning of a word on the basis of similarities. Now, when we have a child, and that child recognizes something which is similar in shape, maybe in sound or maybe in size, they may, for example, use the word apple, okay, to mean ball, or use ball to mean apple, to mean moon, or that child may use the word dog to talk about all or different species of animals. So this is what is meant by overextension. For having further details, you can go to the Dictionary of Linguistics and Phonetics. And it is defined as a term used in language acquisition studies to refer to one type of relationship between adult and child meaning, as expressed in lexical items. In overextension, the child's lexical item has a wider range of application. So that child may use, as I said, one thing under the basis of the similarities or the similarities between these two objects in terms of shape, sound, or whatever, maybe size, than the equivalent term in adult language. For example, the word dog is used for other animals apart from dog. So when that child sees a dog, it's okay, can call it a dog, but when that child sees a cat or horse or whatever, also that child in the beginning, in this early stage, is not able to recognize or to include the meaning or the word horse and cat to talk or to refer to the right animals, but maybe that child is using one word to, like dog, to talk about or to refer to all other types of animals. This is exactly what is meant by the over extension here. Now, as you see here, we have different explanations and different examples that can be seen in this paragraph. So the word ball is extended to all kinds of round objects. You see here, since the ball is round, including what? Lampshade maybe, or doorknob, and the moon, since it is round also, you see. Maybe that child used the word TikTok because it's very easy for that child to use it. TikTok. Initially used for a watch. This is okay, and this is a correct reference. But can also be used for a bathroom scale with round dial. On the basis of size, you see here, this is shape and this is size. Presumably, the word fly was first used for an insect or for the insect, and then came to be used for specks or dirt, you see, and even crumbs of bread. So the child here is trying what? To use one word to mean different things. Basically, this is based on what? Maybe size, shape, maybe sound, or whatever that child can. And this is very important to note. I always use the word important because these are some facts. And these facts should be noted in your agenda actually when you come to answer the questions that I'm going to raise and send you inshallah on the window of Google Classroom. Now this overextension in the use of one word depending on size, shape or whatever, that doesn't mean that the child is not able to distinguish between the objects in front of him or her. Let's see here. 1 2-year-old used apple in speaking to refer to a number of other round objects, as we said, like tomato or a ball. But that child who extend or overextend the use of the word apple is able and find no difficulty in picking out the apple among many other objects. Now, when that child is actually asked to pick up an apple among different or many different objects that are similar in shape, like tomato or ball or whatever, that child is able to recognize the apple, recognize or distinguish the tomato, distinguish the ball. When he asked or she asked to pick up one of these objects, that child is going to be able to determine what is that object in terms of the shape of that object. But in terms of the usage or in terms of the, let's say, the vocabulary, maybe that child is able to use just one word to refer to different objects. Now, as you see here in this paragraph, we are asked or we are supposed to know the meaning of hyponymy. Now, if you want to find a very simplified definition to the hyponymy, you may go to the glossary page 292. Hyponymy it is the lexical relation in which the meaning of one word is included in the meaning of another. Again, the meaning of one word is included in the meaning of another, and the book also supports us with example like the daffodil is a hyponym of flower. Let's see here. Now it would seem more logical to learn, the general term of animal, but all evidence indicates that children first use of dog with an overextended meaning close to the meaning of animal. This is the hyponymy that child used or uses dog to refer to all types of animals, which is an included meaning to refer to one thing, as the definition says. It is that lexical relation to use one word to refer to another meaning, or meaning of one word is included in the meaning of another. You see here? So this may be connected to a similar tendency in adults when talking to a young child or children to refer to flowers, not the more general plants or the more specific tulips. The last subsection, which is later development, is going to be the last point for discussion in this video. First, I'd like you to know the meaning of anatomist relations. Just a gentle reminder for those who are not able to recall the meaning, because the anatomist relations should be included in chapter 9, if I'm not mistaken, that you studied last year, but it is okay to refresh your memory. The anatomist relations or relationships talks about the contradiction between the lexical relation between two words. Almost these words are the adjectives. Now, a large number of kindergarten children pointed to some heavily laden apple tree. Now it is, I guess, a quasi experiment done for kindergarten children who were asked two questions about a tree, an apple tree, sorry. Now here we have which tree has more apples, and which tree has less apples. Now the children are able to recognize the larger tree, not in terms of the difference between, or the contradictions between more and less, but they conceptually able to recognize or to join the adjective larger with more. That's why the answer was successful to be given to the take giver in that kindergarten. Now here you see this children are able also to recognize between two anatomous lexical or lexical relationship between before and after, as well as by answer, and this is evidence to the complex development of expanding their ability to develop semantically, or in terms of semantics. Again, the ability to produce certain types of complex structures and extended discourse are also much later developments, which is not in the beginning of the context or the semantic development, but it is in a later stage of the this type of development, or this stage of development. Interestingly, despite the fact that children are still in the process of acquiring a number of other aspects of their first language through the later years of childhood, maybe from 5 to 6, it's normally assumed that by the age of, again, we have an assumption, by the age of 5, maybe to be more accurate, by the age of 5 to 6, they have completed the greatest part, or the greater part of the basic language acquisition process. Here we have during the, or from 5 to 6, let's say, children are assumed to complete the most important or the largest part of their own language acquisition, their L1 acquisition, language acquisition. And here it is assumed they are ready to be able to learn, not to acquire an additional language. They have become accomplished users of first language, according to some scholars believe. The child is then in a good position to start learning a second or foreign language. Another thing to note in this subsection is the question related to the following. Most people do not start trying to learn another language until much later, but the question says, if first language acquisition was so straightforward and largely automatic, why is learning a second language so difficult? Now let's stop here and try to know what's included here in the question. The question is in two parts. mostly related is the first part. For the second part, it is not our concern actually to put an answer to this part until we are done with chapter 14 later. Now, if you are asked later in the potential question list, why is the first language acquisition why is the first language acquisition straightforward and largely automatic? It depends on you to answer, to know how to schedule your answer in terms of order, how to explore the stages that I referred to earlier in the other videos. Why is it straightforward and largely automatic? Because you see here, we have so far passed through system of development, starting with the queuing, moving to the babbling, which are these two, which are the pre-language stages, then the transactional stage, then to the language stage about the development of morphology, syntax, and semantics. Now, since we can figure out or diagram a particular stage or stages through which a child passes through to acquire his or her first language, it seems very vivid and clear that we have straightforward, forward, and automatic processing for that child to acquire the language, the L1, of course. Now, why is it not for learning second language, the thing that we are all doing or trying to do? Why is it so difficult? This is not going to be answered now. Maybe later when we reach chapter 14, by the end of the chapter 14, we might be able to answer or to put an answer to that question. But now, why is it so straightforward and largely automatic? Because of the stages are found to be systematic and gradual in the appearance of that child to acquire the first language. Now, with this point, I would end the chapter and would end the video, but I'd like to attract your attention that we are not going to go forward to chapter 14, no, but backward to chapter 10, because it is highly related to chapter 11 about the discourse and discourse analysis in terms of written and spoken analysis of a given discourse. That's why I find it very important actually to go backward to discuss some important points related to pragmatics, and we see how pragmatic works and why is it important, why it is important for us to know. And of course, later when we finish chapter 10, we jump to chapter 14 and proceed in our process of filming and sending videos. Thank you very much for listening and watching.